Men, stop demanding evidence. Well, what a moment we are in. Lots of drama, lots of he said, she said, and lots of mostly men demanding evidence. There is no evidence of wrongdoing on the part of Kavanaugh. How can we know the truth without evidence? We demand hard evidence. So much is made about evidence. As a woman who has experienced extensive sexual harassment and assault in my 6 decades of life in a female body, let me tell you about evidence. There will rarely be hard evidence for either sexual harassment or assault. Neither of these is a crime like other crimes. These are not burglaries. This is not embezzlement. This is not a shooting. A burglary can possibly be confirmed by a hidden home camera. An embezzlement might be proved by some unexpectedly dredged up paper trail, a shooting by a police body cam, perhaps forgotten in the heat of the moment. But sexual harassment and assault usually doesn't even have witnesses, much less videotape. There is no paper trail. There is no documentation. There are no depositions. There are no notarized affidavits. There's not even forensic evidence if the crime is very old. But because the crime is old doesn't mean that it did not happen and doesn't mean that we should dismiss the testimony about it. Likewise, because an individual woman says it happened also doesn't absolutely mean that it did. But everyone knows that women almost never lie about these things for 3 reasons. Number 1, first of all, it really doesn't occur to us. Number 2, we simply don't have time in our busy lives, what with taking care of so many people and things. But also 3, because we know that the penalty to us will be far too great. Anita Hill had to deal with repeated death threats. Ford has been forced to leave her home. Women who have come forward about sexual assault or harassment have been fired by men, have had reputations ruined by men, have lost job contracts from men, have had credible threats made on themselves and their families by men, including, in my personal experience, men killing the woman's pet and stuffing that corpse into the woman's mailbox. Let that one sink in. Women have been dragged through months or even years of court processes without any fair result, and some have even been murdered by men. No penalty to the man, usually, up until now. So Kavanaugh has made much about how these false allegations have ruined his life, and I have little sympathy. His yearbook comments show clearly who he was in high school, a belligerent, uncouth teenage drunk who had no respect for women. I am 63 years old. I have been lied to by many men trying to get into my pants, and I know the signs when the average man is caught in a lie. In fact, there is now a technical term that some of us are learning for this, coined by University of Oregon psychologist Jennifer Freed, DARVO, D-A-R-V-O, which stands for deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. So every woman who has ever called a man out for lying about being married while they were dating or cheating or whatever has seen DARVO in play. First, he indignantly denies, "How can you believe this of me?" When that doesn't work, he moves to step 2, attack. "Well, where were you that night?" When that doesn't work, it's reverse victim and offender time. He twists the story so that he is now the hurt victim. Kavanaugh complaining through his furious sniffles that his life has been ruined by this charge. We women are not buying it. He behaved like an entitled man-boy who was having his toys in his sandbox taken away. Sexual harassment and assault on women by men has been going on for thousands of years in the billions. But average men are in some kind of state of denial. As part of their denial, some men say that women make up these sexual assault stories for one of three reasons. Number one, because we are just so desperate for attention. Number two, we want to exact cruel revenge for some imagined slight. Or three, we are deviously plotting for political purposes. All of this is laughable from a woman's perspective. You may be able to find one or two women who have acted in bad faith and told a lie about their sexual harassment or assault. But the number is vanishingly small. Why? Because the price is just too great for us. I've been fired more than once, more than twice, more than 3 times for coming forward. And really, how does a woman come forward? In the many instances when the person making the final decision on the matter is the very one who assaulted you in the first place. When the managing partner of the law firm for which you work is the one who assaulted you, who, I ask, do you go to? Do you make an appointment with your handy human resources department manager, also his employee, who knows very well that she too can be fired by that managing partner? No, you'd better have evidence. The hard evidence that so many men, including our president, have been indignantly demanding all along in the Kavanaugh case. Must women walk around with body cams? Or perhaps we should hire an assistant to dog us, documenting and immediately filing with the police, of course, all instances of harassment, thereby creating a verifiable paper trail that we can provide for the inevitable subsequent court case. Obviously absurd. In sexual assault cases, there usually is no hard evidence, and it is disingenuous of so many men to demand it, because they all know very well that there usually is none. There was no hard evidence when 3 male babysitters molested 4-year-old me in that Quonset hut on the island of Guam in 1959. There was no hard evidence when our 40-year-old next-door neighbor exposed himself and masturbated in front of terrified and confused 6-year-old me in Las Vegas when I came over at his invitation to walk his dog, hoping to get 50 cents to do so. I didn't walk the dog, but he gave me $1 anyway and told me not to tell my mom or dad. There was no hard evidence when multiple middle-aged men serially molested 10-year-old me in the back alley of the parking lot of the Showboat Hotel in Las Vegas, where my mother bowled weekly. There was no hard evidence when multiple teenage boys grabbed me, felt me up, which is a euphemism for physically mauled and attacked me, and attempted to pull my clothes off in a lonely corner of Newport Harbor High in 1972. They probably don't even remember it, just like Kavanaugh and his buddies do not remember their assaults. There was no hard evidence when multiple times, really too many to count, in strip mall parking lots, and women know what I'm talking about, 20-something me comes out of a store, minding my own business, headed to my car in the lot, and a masturbating man drives by, exposing himself, hoping for the gratification of a quick glimpse of my shocked expression. There was no hard evidence when multiple times I was in my 20s told by employers that I had to have sex with them in order to keep my secretarial job. And one I recall very well, I'm sure he does not remember this, one had a nameplate specially printed for my desk, which said Ava Park Secretary. And he thought it was hilarious. I was unamused. And then he claimed that I had no sense of humor. He who controlled my paycheck. There was no hard evidence when multiple men I thought I knew date raped me, one strangling me in a parked car until I was forced to gurgle and spit this breathless, air-sucking verbal agreement that no, I actually really did like him and I would keep seeing him just so I could get out of the car alive. There was no hard evidence when that Salt Lake City stalker named Kenneth followed me everywhere I went for a month, including into my apartment to steal underwear from my lingerie drawer, which he would then drop in a threateningly casual manner onto the restaurant table the next day where I was having my business lunch. How do I know his name? I discovered it when I reported him to the police, who told me, Salt Lake City PD, "We know all about him. He does that to plenty of women. You're not so special. He's harmless. Just ignore him." There was no hard evidence when just 2 years ago, 3 men put something in my drink at Javier's Mexican restaurant at the Irvine Spectrum Mall here in Orange County. 3 businessmen in suits who came and sat down at my table and offered to buy me a drink. Only my intuition and my ability to walk unsteadily away kept me safe. I thought, I will report this. But then I thought back about my long history of trying to report things. Make a police report? Do not make me laugh. There is no hard evidence that 17-year-old Kavanaugh assaulted 15-year-old Ford back in 1982. I can't even give you hard evidence of any of the multiple assaults I myself have personally endured over the years. There's no hard evidence that millions and millions and millions of women, billions really, have been assaulted for thousands of years in every culture on earth by men. The only evidence I have, and the only evidence I should need, is that millions and millions of women have been telling us for a very long time that there is a serious problem with men's behavior towards women. Sure, it's possible that any single one of those stories could be made up for the purposes of attention getting or revenge or politics. But when you have 1,100 alumni of Ford School signing a letter saying that the behavior of which Kavanaugh has been accused was just run-of-the-mill everyday stuff for young men and women of that school, then what more evidence must we really provide? When 1 million women march and say something is seriously wrong between women and men, what more evidence do you really need? If you do not believe by now that something is wrong with the way the average man is treating the average woman, then you do not want to believe us. Men, if you want to be allies to women, then stop asking for evidence. There is little of the kind that you seem to want. We have only our countless stories that we have been telling you for a very long time. When you start believing women's recountings of our reality, then perhaps we shall together make a start to healing this war between women and men. When you stop worrying about keeping your power and your place, then together we can set the world right. We women and men can work together to fix this. We actually need you. Looking at the history of oppression, we see that change has often been accompanied by a small percentage of members of the oppressing group as they switch sides, stepping forward and going to stand publicly with the oppressed group. When white abolitionists finally had the courage to stand with the anti-slavery cause, that signaled a shift. When the average man becomes willing to see what men as a group are doing, not all men, I know, not all men, but men as a group, when the average man becomes willing to see what men as a group are doing to women on this planet, when he becomes willing to stand with women publicly to make things right, then we will see things shift for the better. If you'd been white in pre-Civil War America, would you have stood with the abolitionists? Or would you have been one of the many useless, silent, sideline hand-wringers? Or even worse, much worse, would you have been one of the self-righteous defenders of slavery? No, there's no evidence that it harms anyone. We feed and house them. Those darkies are better off under slavery. Well, there's no reason to wonder who you would have been. There is indeed a way which we can tell right now which side you would have been on, by whether you are speaking out now on behalf of women. If you are staying silent, you are one of the useless sideline hand-wringers. You impact history and the evolution of humanity not one iota. You are one of a faceless, do-nothing mass of spineless, invisible beta males that waits for your alpha male brothers to tell you which way the patriarchal wind is blowing. If, on the other hand, you are not remaining silent, if you are one of the many men who keep demanding that all-important evidence, if you are asking no deeper question than that, then we know you are a defender of cruelty. And from the Me Too looks of things, not very far in the future, you shall be found on the wrong side of history. So men, stop grilling us for evidence. Stop charging us with your fabricated so-called female crimes of attention getting and revenge and political gain, and stand with us, because a truly fair and just society will benefit you too. We women are not the enemy. We are the ones who gave you birth. We are the ones who fed you. We are the ones who took care of you. We are the ones who loved you. We are your sisters, your mothers, your daughters, your aunts, your grandmothers, your friends. We are the women who love you still, and we want and welcome your consciousness for justice, for fairness, for respect, for reverence for all life. Men, we are women. We are your friends, and our desire for your true and fair friendship is all the evidence you need to step up now and do the right thing. Believe women. Help women. Stand with women. Blessed be.